This is the second chapter of the book. I like this. It sets up a couple of things. It goes in a couple of interesting directions. It's going to appear incomplete because it's an opening chapter and it leads into a lot of other things. I last talked to Ron Davidson the winter after Kat died. The subject of her death never came up. I was 19 and he was 33. They probably figured there was some reason I wasn't smoking dope or drinking anymore, but he never asked me about it. I met him 6 years before when I was in junior high and didn't hang out with him until I was 15 and I'd babysit his 2 kids sometimes. He was a stoner, a head, and I wanted to see what that world was like, what it was that made it function, who did what and how they did whatever it was that allowed drugs as a necessary part. Drugs were around us then in the culture as a new thing, at least new to me at 15. We heard about them all the time. People had a lot of ideas. As there were people I could see using drugs and talk to them about it, see how they lived, it made it necessary for me to get closer, to take a look. Not doing it would be as if I were passing through Egypt on business and I didn't stop to see the pyramids. I made up a person to be then, altered one I'd been working on for years, made it fit the circumstances. In my mind then, at my best, I imagined I was like Clint Eastwood in one of the Sergio Leone movies, The Man with No Name. Not a drifter, but unattached to a place. It was a portable character, one that could be used in different circumstances. It was a good one to have to use as a kid, an attitude that could be made to fit many circumstances without having to know too much about what I was getting into. It was about creating a presence, making a character that worked in the minds of people I'd see, being a person who would not look out of place, who knew when it was time to go. I figured this sort of a character must be a universal thing, a way to be for boys, or those movies wouldn't have been so popular. I couldn't see any appeal in the films other than that. The dubbing in English was awful, and the stories weren't that good. The guy kicked somebody's ass when it was necessary, and he never flinched. Then he left. He left in the way in which he had to, without explanation, without saying where he was going. Possibly going back to the place from where he came, but you never knew for sure. He was always a visitor, a stranger, a traveler. That was what made any story a person thought about impossible, not knowing. It was a mistake to think that being like that was because of some kind of alienation. It wasn't that at all. It was the opposite of that, really. He was a guy who had figured it out, a man who knew something in its most simple form, so simple he could not explain it to anyone, as they had not reduced the whole of the world into the basic elements as he had done. Nothing he could say in explanation would work to bring anyone else to an understanding of it. He was cool not because he knew this, but because he was comfortable with knowing it. That's what I was going for. The less you say, the easier it is to walk away, to leave when you don't. That's what I was going for. The less you say, the easier it is to walk away. Leave when you need to and not look like a dumbass. Alright, I'm going to end that one right there. You know, I almost made it through without messing up, but I did it right at the end, so it was a good recovery.